This is the free motion quilting tutorial for swirling feathers. This is stitched, or at least the way I stitch feathers is to first create the stem or the vine for the feathers to work off of. Then I go all the way back to the beginning and then I start stitching my feathers off of it. And right now I'm butting this up against another feather that I've already done, and so I'm stitching these feathers right up next to the other ones. I'm trying to use this as a fill, so I want them to really butt up and squish together so that there's no extra space in between them. It's a little tricky, but I find it easier to work from the top of the feather stem down towards the end, and that's just the way it works best for me. But everybody stitches feathers a little differently, and everybody has kind of their method that feels more natural. So I would say experiment. That's the best way to know how stitching feathers is going to feel good for you and really look the most natural, because if you're stitching feathers and they aren't flowing nicely, you're going to definitely be able to tell. They're not going to stitch nice and plump and round. They're going to look really weird. And for the longest time I stitched weird looking feathers and they weren't nice, and it took a long time before I realized that I just had to simply stop listening to everybody else's advice and stitch them the way that worked best for me. And because of the way I work, I actually, after I finish one side, I go all the way back. I travel again all the way back to the starting point and stitch down the opposite side. And some people don't do that. Some people will simply stitch their feathers backwards. I don't have that skill yet, so I went all the way back to the beginning. And you can see that it really makes a really nice, gorgeous design when you stitch these all the way up and into your spiral and fill up the whole area. To branch off with your next spiral, simply find a space in between two feathers and branch off from that space into your next spiral stem. And then, of course, then fill in that whole area with more feather shapes. Feathers seem to be kind of one of those things. Some people love them, some people hate them, but pretty much every quilter has to deal with feathers in some shape or form, and it's one of those kinds of designs that is very traditional and is very ornamental, but can also be rather funky, like in these spirals. I think that this kind of makes the feathers a little less formal. At least that's my opinion, personal opinion. But here's what it looks like when you finish swirling feathers. For over 150 videos on free motion quilting, check out daystyledesigns.com.